Hello and welcome to this video in which I'm building the Airfix Starter Set of the Eurofighter Typhoon in 1/72 scale. Now if you enjoy this and find it useful, please remember to like the video below. And while you're there, why not subscribe to my channel to see other builds and new projects as they arrive. Although this is a starter set, it is classed as skill level 2. It's not as easy as the starter Spitfire, for example, but it's still not a tricky kit by any means. I think most beginners should be able to complete this. The kit comes with one flying hour. If you're a member of the Airfix Club, you can collect these at flying hours towards a free kit in the future. Let's get on and see what you get for your money. Now, starter sets with Airfix come with all the paints and glue and paintbrushes you're likely to need to build the kit. So there they all are. There's 2 or 3 different types of grey, black and white, and some silver. Okay, let's have a look inside the box. And there we go. We have instructions and we have the plastic parts. Let's have a quick look at the plastic first. Oh, we also have a decal sheet here to have a look at in a bit. So, plastic parts. Essentially, the fuselage and wings come as like 2 halves. There we go. Pretty much half the kit is already made. That's good because it means there's not much in the way of edges to get matched up, and it will look fantastic really quickly. A few extra bits and pieces, missiles here and here, wheels, pilot and ejection seat, interior of the cockpit, the tail, forward canards, undercarriage, bits and pieces of pylons and whatever, fuel tanks and nose cone. And of course there is the canopy, 2-part canopy, front and the main canopy itself, and there's a little landing light on there as well. So very straightforward. The pieces appear basic, but it should make a really nice kit. Again, remember this is a starter set, so there's one option for the markings. This is an aircraft of 17 Squadron RAF in 2007. All the paint details for bits and pieces, weaponry and the aircraft itself. Interestingly, they've put 11 and 33 for the exhaust. That's essentially gunmetal. So if you happen to have any gunmetal paint, which I think might be 53 in the Humbrol range, then you can use that. Otherwise, by all means, just mix black and silver for the actual exhaust pipes. And because you really don't have much of an option in the markings, and because it's a starter set, the decals you get are fairly limited. Now, on a more complex kit, you'd have a lot of stencils and stuff like that. At this scale and in these colours, it really is not going to make much difference. And this is to get people excited about building models again. These are printed really nicely. The squadron badge there is really smart. I think this could make a really good kit. And the instructions. Here's the instructions booklet. It feels quite a lot in here. First you open up, there's more than one page. Well, there are actually 2 pages. There you go, that's the whole thing, start to finish. 6 blocks of instructions. It's not going to be a complicated kit to build. It's going to be very straightforward, but it should look great. So let's get on with it and make a start. Now the first thing to do is to give the parts a gentle clean and a mild detergent, say a few drops of washing up liquid in a cup of warm water. This removes any residues that might have been left on the surface of the plastic from the moulding. I always give my kits a gentle spray of acrylic primer too, but you don't have to do this. Washing is the most important thing. Some of the smaller parts I'm going to paint whilst they're still on the sprue. It just makes them a lot easier to handle. Other parts, like this ejection seat, I paint when they're stuck with some blue tack on an old offset of wood. It makes it easier to get into every angle and they stay safe while drying. Now, Airfix only give you 6 paints with this kit, so there's a limited amount you can do to paint the pilot. They suggest grey, white and black. Now, I've got paint pots left over from other starter kits, so I can use the green from the Spitfire for the flying suit and this flesh colour from the Titanic's funnels for the face. If you're going to carry on making models, don't throw away leftover bits of paint. They're always useful. The result, I think, is pretty good for this scale. Now, some of the paints will need a good stir before use. See, while they're sitting on the shop shelf, the pigments in the base can split a little bit, but a toothpick or a cocktail stick will do the job of mixing in no time. I cut pieces from the sprue using modelling nippers, but any narrow, sharp cutters will do. If I'm painting on the sprue, I might cut some of the sprue off as well to give me a little bit more room. After cutting, the pieces may need some sanding. I make my own sanding sticks, but you could use something like a nail file. You can find out more about this and other helpful hacks in my top 10 tips video in my channel. Now we can get down to construction, and the pilot gets glued into their seat. Then the control column gets glued into the instrument panel. Again, I'm using this wooden stick to support these smaller pieces. The instrument panel then gets glued into the cockpit tub. This has been pre-painted in grey. And then the pilot slots into the back of the cockpit. We'll leave all that to dry. Next we assemble the canards. These are the little wings at the front of the fuselage. They're connected by this cross piece that comes in 2 halves, and they sit at this downwards angle. When the cockpit is dry, it slides into place in the upper half of the fuselage. The kit is a little tail heavy, so Airfix suggests you add 5 grams of weight to the front. That's about this size of blue tack, but use anything dense. Just make sure you put the weight into gaps that are there and they don't interfere with the movement of the canards. I use these lead shot for weights. They were intended for use in making diving weight packs, and they're really not too expensive online. They're held in place with white PVA glue. When that glue has dried, we can assemble the 2 halves of the fuselage and wings. It feels as if most of the build is already done, but we're not quite there yet. With the fuselage drying, I'll start painting other pieces, such as these missiles. Again, I'll keep them on the sprue for ease of access. To finish off the front end, we attach the nose cone to the fuselage. Next are a couple of small pods that fit on the ends of the wings. These come in 2 halves that glue together, then slot into place at the wingtips. Next is the fin or vertical stabiliser, which comes in 2 halves. For pieces like this, I tend to use clamps to hold them in place as they dry. Closed pegs would do the trick just as well. And when the glue on the fin has dried, the fin can be slotted into place. I'm giving the model a coat of a spray primer, so I need to mask out the canopy. You can buy pre-cut shapes out of paper for specific aircraft, but I'm going to make my own using regular low-tack masking tape. The important thing is to run a sharp cocktail stick or toothpick around the inside of the frame so that it stands out. That way, when you cut it, you can get the mask right first time. A very sharp craft knife or scalpel is needed to trim the excess, so please do take care. The windscreen is done in the same way as a canopy. When they're done, you can spray or brush paint with ease. With the masks done, the canopy can be attached to the fuselage, the rear half first, and then use this to locate the windscreen at the front. One option that comes with the kit is to have the air brake open like this, or having it closed as I want to. Remember, all the options in the kit are for you to decide what you want for your model. Now I've chosen to display this with the undercarriage down, so I'm going to have to paint all the doors. The insides are white, the outsides the same grey as the rest of the fuselage. The wheel hubs are also painted white, as are the undercarriage legs. My next job is to fit the fuel tanks together. Now these come in halves. Take the time to get as good a fit as you can now. This will reduce the need for sanding of the joint line later on. Next I'm starting to build the air intake. Now the upper ramp fits into place fairly simply. The rest of the intake body has a lot of what we call flash on it. This is where the moulds don't meet precisely, normally due to extended use, and plastic leaks when it's injected. You can use your craft knife to get rid of most of this, then finish it off with some more sanding. That done, you can add the splitter panel into the air intake, then fit the hole onto the fuselage, and you can sand down some of these joints to get them really smooth later on. More pre-painting now, and this time I'm doing the tyres. Again, paint them on the sprue to allow you to get to all of the part more easily. The next job are the weapons pylons. Now, I'm not sure why these ones have come in two halves, they just do. The pylons fit into the lower wing in the pre-drilled holes. Once they're in place, just finesse the fit so that they're upright. Now onto painting your fuselage itself. Use the larger of the brushes supplied, the number 4, and apply in long strokes. Gently brush across the paint to remove brush marks where you can. I've thinned the paint very slightly, but if you haven't primed the plastic, you'll find that you'll need the full thickness of the paint to stick better. Do use more than one coat, don't try and do it all in one go. And with the second or later coats, thin the paint slightly to give a smoother finish. And while the fuselage paint dries, you can get on with more assembly. The main wheels fit together in halves, and then they slot onto the undercarriage legs. Some parts of the model, such as the tip of the fin, get a different colour grey from the rest of the fuselage. In front of the engine exhaust is a band of this darker grey, plus a band of silver. Now I do find the silver the weakest paint in the set. If you can get another one, please do. Then the exhaust nozzles themselves. The inside of each of these I'm painting in black. Then, using the pot lid from the silver paint, mixing a little bit of black to create this darker shiny gunmetal colour for the outside of the exhaust. I think this looks a lot more convincing than the plain silver does. The exhaust then gets stuck onto the back. I'll touch up all the paint lines in a little bit. With the main paint complete, you can take off the cockpit masks. Now, if there's any leakage around the masks, you can run a sharp toothpick around the inner edge of the frame to pick off any overspill and straighten the lines. Next are the decals. You do need to fit the underwing roundel now, as it will be too difficult once the stores are on the pylons. Cut out the decals as you need them, soak in warmish water for about 30 seconds, then they will slide into place. I use tweezers to hold the paper and a brush to ease the decal into place. While the decals are drying, I can get on with the painting of the insides of the undercarriage bays. This is white, and then fix the legs into place. The main gear leg fits into the outer hole with the wheels on the outside. Then this actuator arm fits into place. It's really fiddly, so tweezers help a lot. The nose gear leg just fits into 2 holes. Try to keep the model level with blocks whilst you fit the undercarriage doors. This will help keep them upright as they set. The outer doors sit in place next to the gear leg. Then the nose wheel door goes into place. Do double check which side it goes. And while the kit is level like this, I'm going to fit the stores as well. First, there are 4 AIM-120 missiles that slot into these semi-recessed positions on the fuselage. Then 2 more AIM-120s go on the middle of the pylons under each wing. Then the smaller ASRAAM missiles sit on the outermost pylons. The fuel tanks have a helpful little arrow to tell you which way round to fit them, and they go on the innermost pylon on each wing. When that's dry, the last thing to do is the landing light, and I paint the back of this in silver before gluing it into place on the front leg of the undercarriage. A quick touch of silver on the light on the top of the fuselage and we're done. And there it is, the Eurofighter Typhoon. It's a decent kit and it goes together quite well, and the result is pleasing. It's a good introduction to modern aircraft and can be made by pretty much anyone with a little bit of care. Now, if you've enjoyed this and found it useful, please remember to like the video below and subscribe to my channel, where you'll find other builds and future projects as they're completed. You can even buy me a coffee through a link below if you like. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.